wave 15. Say the evasion version of this with the dual charges and the minions for the extra damage does some serious work in max level sims. This feels very safe and easy. Howdy, my dudes. I would like to finally introduce you to the update to the Walking Bonk build. This here is the Evasion Energy Shield version. It is one of two updates I'm going to be doing to the build. There's two versions. They're kind of similar, but also very different. And I feel like you'll get a lot from seeing both options, and therefore anybody who has the Evasion version and anyone who has a Energy Shield version will both be able to get many upgrades potentially from this. So first of all, yeah, what happened to all my Energy Shield? Yeah, I swapped to Hybrid Evasion Energy Shield to give me all this crazy amount of evasion. It does not hurt my survivability. In fact, I feel I'm quite untouchable right now. It is an extremely powerful upgrade for survivability. This version here is more survivable, whereas the Energy Shield, Pure Energy Shield version is more damage. And I will be going over that on stream tomorrow, but here we'll go over the changes. So first of all, with the Pure Energy Shield version, the big thing is you're able to use Wind Dancer, which is a wonderful defensive layer. It massively stacks your evasion, but it means you can't use the dual charge tech. So if you're wanting to continue using the dual charge tech, you would have to drop Wind Dancer, and for me, that drops me down to 64% evasion from 77, I believe. Yeah, to 77. It is quite a big loss, so instead of getting hit 1 in every 4 times, you're getting hit 1 in every 3, but it is an option. So now how this works here. You can use Meditate, you can use Avatar, both are fine. You'll see that I have plenty of damage. It's slightly more damage than what the Walking Bonk was before, but a large amount more survivable. And it was already very survivable before, but now this is literally no diffing simulacrums on the max rank. So what you do is you take Tempest Flurry. You can have a higher level one if you want, but if you do, you're going to need to put in Inspiration in Tempest Flurry. But right now I'm wanting to use Elemental Invocation, and that's where my Inspiration is going. If you want to take this out, you could use Flicker Strike or you could use Blink for more mobility in maps, but I like to leave this in so that I don't need to switch it out for bossing at all ever. So Flicker Strike or Tempest Flurry would have with Martial Tempo, Primal Armament, Rage, and Overcharge. Very consistent with before. Charge Staff has Persistence and Unbreakable. I'm probably going to talk about this a few times. I can't believe Unbreakable actually works. It gives you 200% more charge, more stun threshold while you're using the charge. So I think that must be kind of a new change, because I swear I tested it and it didn't do anything before. But yes, this is seemingly working now, and I have felt tanky. I have the Nox enemies back on hit, Electrocute, and Neural Overload. It is quite nice. I do not use Lightning Infusion anymore. Lightning Infusion is bad because of the update I made to the build. If you do not have something like this that gives you increased damage as extra fire or extra cold, you can still use Innervate if you want to. It will be a small damage increase, but right now, because I have this, it's actually a damage decrease when I put Innervate in for Charge Staff. Now for Tempest Bell, obviously concentrated effect, amazing for bosses, same with close combat. Immolate is incredible, so is Rising Tempest and Potential. The weakest one out of all of these is Immolate for how much damage it gives you. Kind of close is Close Combat, but Immolate is the lowest, so if you wanted to switch this out to try and have some one-shot mechanics, you could put in Hourglass, but if you do not one-shot the enemy that you're going against with the bell, it can be a little bit awkward waiting for those 10 seconds for the bell to come back. Then we still use Charge Infusion because that 20% more critical hit chance is ridiculously good, and it's very much so worth using. And we use Combat Frenzy with Resonance. Right now I quickly swapped one thing out, so I'm going to put Resonance back in. This is how you have it. You have the resonance tech on here for the very simple, just smack things, freeze them, electrocute them, and you get power charges. It's a brain off way of doing this. It's definitely a little bit slower because you do not have the frenzy charges to give you the crazy attack speed, but it's also in a way a bit faster because you're not needing to cast Profane Ritual. And so if you're wanting to regain that speed that you lose from Frenzy, you could swap out Elemental Invocation with Flicker Strike. It does work quite well as a mobility skill. I like it a lot. I just prefer to keep Elemental Invocation in there, so that way it can be used to charge your Rising Tempest on your bell. Now, Wind Dancer has Blind, Inevitable, Critical, Leverage, and Energy Barrier. I believe these are the best, but you could move Blind onto your Charge Staff, maybe take off Bludgeon, and put another skill on here, maybe Maim on Wind Dancer. Therefore, you have more blind uptime instead of just blinding the people who are the most likely to hit you when they surround you. Now for your Herald of Thunder, you can have Ice Bite, Cold Infusion, Glaciation, Ambush, and Long Shot. There is no better combo that I know of. And then Herald of Ice, Magnified Effect, Conduction, Shock Siphon, Cold Mastery, and Innervate. This is wonderful. Grim Feast, obviously amazing. Elemental Invocation with Eye of Winter, Ricochet, Chain, and Inspiration. I love this combo as well. It gets a lot of damage off and it makes it really consistent. Now, if you're wanting to use Blink, there is a pretty nice little combo there that apparently I don't have on here anymore. But there is the faster recharge time, and there is another one that says increases recharge time, but it allows you to have 2 charges, and it gives you 2 blinks back and forth, which is wonderful. Now finally, the other option is Flicker Strike. One thing that I think is essential with Flicker Strike is Elemental Focus. If you have Elemental Focus, it stops it from proccing Herald of Ice all the time, which helps you blink through maps a lot easier, and it feels so much better because, yeah, you're actually getting the mobility. You can put on something like Behead. It's kind of a meme, but every once in a while you get the mods from the rares. But even with Elemental Focus on, the Charge Staff oftentimes will electrocute something or freeze. Actually, no, it'll freeze something to set off Herald of Ice, and then it will take away the Behead down. So that's kind of unfortunate. Another good one for Flicker Strike that I like is Momentum. Momentum is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And then just for another skill to take some space, because it's kind of difficult to find enough support gems, Culmination actually is kind of nice because you're not using it all the time for your only damaging ability. It can be kind of nice just to get a 10% more multiplier without trying or without thinking. So now for the passive tree and where the huge amount of updates to the tech come in place. So first of all, I'm only keeping 3 of my rare jewels. Unfortunately, I would have loved to keep more, but I can only afford to keep 3 in this current setup, and I do not see a way to make it better without losing out on a lot more. But now where the complete and massive improvement come in place is, 1, I got this Against the Darkness Lost Time and Jewel, which gives me 4% increased strength and 4% increased damage from fire. This 4% damage is extra. Could be fire, it could be cold, it could be lightning, it could be any of those, and it'll be fantastic. It'll be best if you had strength and int, but it's also very, very good if you have strength and dex. You get more damage for sure by doing the percent strength and percent extra damage, but you lose the AoE from the int, and this little bit of damage is minimal that you lose. So I believe going int is definitely the strongest, but it also costs 4 times as much. So this is definitely a great bargain to go. You could go strength and dex, which gives you a massive amount more attack speed and will make your mapping feel better. But then you won't be able to use, say, if you don't have rings with fire damage or cold damage on, this won't completely remove that little bit of barrier. Like this here massively increases your consistency in all aspects. If you didn't have cold, this will get your heralds off. If you didn't have fire, this will ignite the bosses and give you immolate procs, and it's wonderful. Now next is this Megalomaniac. This one here is ridiculous and incredible, and I got it at a great price. I paid 25 Divine for this, and I think it's worth much more. But the number one thing you need on here is Jack of all trades. If you don't have Jack of all trades, this tech won't work. Get Jack of all trades, and I'm going to show you why. Because when we come down here, we stop this pathing all the way down, and we managed to get this allocated for a very special reason, with Megalomaniac giving us Jack of all trades, and this one here I managed to get Vulgar Methods as well, which is incredible. It also gave me this Blinding Flash, which is good for the Evasion version of this build, but if you're being Energy Shield, it doesn't help too much. But yeah, with Jack of all trades, you don't need to do the pathing down because you're also using From Nothing with Iron Reflexes. And as you can see, it highlights around this ring here, and I'm able to get Polymathy, these all attribute nodes, which are ridiculously efficient for the build. These are worth taking. And then also this authority point. They are very, very strong nodes. This 20% increase effect is the same effectiveness of getting 50 intelligence to get that much more area of effect. You obviously don't get the damage of the 50 intelligence that you'd get from these gloves, but you get the area of effect of it, which is nutty good. You save all of this pathing, and if you do not have a good node here, like how I have the natural energies, if you just had something junk in here, you wouldn't actually put your Verana Jewel here. You would swap your Verana with whatever jewel you have here, and you'd put your 1 point here on the Whispers of Doom, and it will save you 1 passive point, and you'll have more to work with than I will. But because this is so good for me, I keep it here. Now, you keep your controlled metamorphosis at this node here, and you're using it to get Falcon Technique, Escape Velocity. I'm using it for natural energies. You probably may not. And then Bestial Skin. This obviously works if you don't have a Verana, and then you use a 4th jewel. It might actually be kind of nice, because with it being Evasion Energy Shield, it's giving me 2800 of Energy Shield instead of like the 4,000 it gives me on the pure Energy Shield version, but it's still a huge amount of Energy Shield. Then, yeah, finally, if you had the extra point, you'd probably get Bestial Skin, or else instead of getting these 2 evasion nodes, you would come up here and get these evasion nodes for 2 points, and it would give you a little bit more Energy Shield as well. We were pathing fully straight through here to get these Dex nodes, which are quite nice, to come up here and get enhanced reflexes, and we are still getting martial artistry and all these same crit nodes as before. We cannot lose insightfulness, but we do take off the 2 melding nodes. You could potentially, if you just wanted Energy Shield, you could drop this node as well if you didn't have here, and get the 40% increase Energy Shield from there instead, and you'd have the same amount as I do. This is a really wonderful tree. Obviously, we come up here for this maximum Energy Shield per evasion here. We get the reduced mana cost so that you're able to maintain mana skills more often. And then here we took Weapon Swap 1 on all these crit nodes. Excuse me. On all these crit nodes. So that way we could use Weapon Swap 2 to get all these faster Energy Shield recharge rates. Right here, faster, increase Energy Shield recharge, increase Energy Shield recharge, all these increase Energy Shield recharge, and another one right here. So that way, when you swap to your offhand, it recharges that fast. With Meditate, it's crazy fast. It's super good. It's very worth it. And this is the Simulacrum setup for the build. So first of all, you have the swap out for Meditate with the crazy Meditate recharge speed tech, which you see up here that I've got my weapon swap to, so that I can fully charge Meditate that fast. It's like 2 seconds. It's nuts. And then in the skills, you can ignore Quarterstaff Strike. It doesn't matter. It's just where I hold things for slotting back in later. I don't even put anything in Meditate. It's not necessary. You can if you want to, but oh well. My Tempest Flurry is a low-leveled one so that it can continuously spam without ever having mana issues. With Martial Tempo, Primal Armament to help you get the shocks and the freezes off. This could swap out if you wanted to put this into the bell and swap it with Innervate if you like. It's just I am getting all the shocks off with the bell, so these could swap positions if you wanted to. Rage on Tempest Flurry and Shock Siphon is incredible. This keeps you popped up if you are ever dropping a little bit. You almost never will, but every once in a while it happens. Charge Staff has Persistence, so it lasts longer. Unbreakable, which I did not expect to be in here now. More stun threshold while using the skill. I swear I tested this in the past and it wasn't working, but it's in there now, so this must be working, and I'm definitely noticing that I am not getting stunned while I've charged staff up pretty much ever. Like, it's quite consistent and good. And the fact that you have persistence here with maxing your charge staff at the start, it's up for the entirety of each wave. Then you got Bludgeon as a nice little quality of life. It knocks guys away. You could again swap this out with something if you wanted, something like maybe Blind. And then I have the Electrocute Neural Overload to put the great tech for the bell, and it's another layer of defense. For the bell, you take off Concentrated Effect and you put on Magnified Effect, so the AoE clears the entire screen. Then you have Minion Pact, because we have the Minion tech, because on Simulacrums, it's very easy to get the dual charge tech going. It's not doable without taking off Wind Dancer for mapping, and so I personally believe that this is kind of a best for Simulacrum setup, but you could potentially use this for mapping as well. I just don't believe it feels as good as using Wind Dancer, because you have Evasion. Make the most of it. Now, I keep Immolate on there as well. It's the Charge Staff and Tempest Flurry are igniting basically everything, so that the Charge Staff or the Tempest Bell will be able to take advantage of those ignites. And plus, the minions also have Infernal Legion, so therefore they are also igniting everything. It's quite consistent and strong. Then here's Innervate again. You could swap it with Primal Armament if you wanted to, but the fact that you are getting all the shocking kills all the time, it's basically permanent 35% lightning damage. And then Overabundance, this is the only time I recommend using it, is in Simulacrums. It is really nice for quality of life here because you don't need as much damage. It is a DPS check, but more so you need to make sure that you have the bell in the right place at the right time. And so if you have the bell at the top right corner of a map taking out all the mobs, and then two bosses spawn at the bottom left right as you drop it, it could be really awkward trying to pop that bell and then charging and then going back down. Whereas with Overabundance, if they pop at the bottom left of the map, you just swing around and you attack them, and then the bell is down and they're dead. Charge Infusion, Combat Frenzy, obviously they're amazing for the more skill speed and to give you frenzy charges to go with the power charges that came from Profane Ritual and the minions. Wind Dancer, I like Blind on here. It's quite strong. I know some people say Blind on the Charge Staff instead, so you're blinding more things. Whereas if you have Blind on Wind Dancer, when you do get hit, the things that are around you can't hit you anymore. That is the theory and thought process behind it. Then Inevitable Critical and Leverage are used to make sure that anytime you try to, whenever it pops, it just wrecks everything. It's basically a guaranteed crit, because not counting leverage, I am at 75.48% crit chance. With this 50% increase crit chance, that's an extra 12% on top of this. It makes it basically 88% crit chance, and that's absolutely ridiculous. Then here we got Energy Barrier. It's super nice so that if they do stun you on that pop, which is possible, your energy shield just starts regenerating immediately or recharging immediately, and yeah, it's quite good. Then here for Herald of Thunder, we keep that in because it's very good for Simulacrums. It doesn't change, only Herald of Ice becomes useless. We keep all the same nodes everywhere in there. Sacrifice, same thing, it's just the same. Skeletal Clerics, Meat Shield. Infernal Legion is very nice so that you can use Immolate And then Elemental Army, you could also put in +1 minion skills. I just didn't feel like looking for the jewel. That's how strong this is. Obviously, you have them turned on. Don't leave it off. The only reason why I have them off is I don't want you guys to have to hear them messing around for the whole video. Then Profane Ritual, Perfusion, Unleash, Corpse Conservation, and Arcane Tempo. The reason for Arcane Tempo is so it casts faster, Corpse Conservation so every once in a while it doesn't use all the corpses, and Unleash so it does multiple casts with each button click. It makes it feel a lot better. So how you're going to play The Sims, it's very simple actually. You charge up your power charges between waves. So there you go. You got a fully charged staff. You could swap between if you want to and get a bunch more charges this way. But I got enough. It's fine. I don't need to worry about doing this to get max charges. You just go around, you start the wave, you smack, and as soon as your bell is ready, you drop it. And as soon as you drop that bell, you'll see that it just clears screens and you are in great position to do whatever you want. And with overabundance, you continuously spam it. You're having basically 0 bell downtime. You don't hit the bell directly. You dance around it in a circle, and then you let Herald of Thunder hit it, and the side hits from your attacks hit it. Therefore, it keeps the bell up better, charges you more consistently, and therefore when the bosses spawn and they have the instant one-hit kill stuff, because you're moving around in an erratic way, their one-hit kills will just straight up miss you. And then the Skeletal Clerics will take some aggro, and for the most part, everything else just takes care of itself. And here I set up a nice little POB for you guys to use. If you have Path of Building downloaded, I will have this linked in the description. It has everything in there. It is set up correctly, and I have added multiple calcs in the configuration here so that it will add the 40% more damage for Avatar. If you do not want to use Avatar, you just come here and put a little tilde beside it and it will remove it from the calculations. I have 150% more damage to signify the 5 elements on the bell. This may be calculating a little bit wrong, but it's doing really well. I have added the critical hits, ignore enemy monster elemental resistances, which is absolutely needed in here because for whatever reason it doesn't calc normally. Got the charge infusion stuff, and I got my heroic tragedy stuff in there. If you don't have heroic tragedy, you just come and tilde these out and you'd see what numbers you'd get without. So legitimately, this here is set up quite nicely for you guys to play with. You don't need to really know how it works, but it is set up properly. It's set up against Uber Pinnacle bosses. If I wanted to just straight up lie to you guys, I'd leave Avatar on there and I'd say not Uber Pinnacle, and oh look, I got 124 million damage. That would just be stupid and unfair to you. I'd also check has hit a shocked, now I got 147 million damage. Oh my god. No. This is how you set it up properly. This is how you get the numbers looking right. This will help you out. The only thing here that's potentially dishonest is like 30 rage on there. You're not going to have that up all the time, but I mean, here, let's just look at it with 15 rage. There you go. Numbers are still pretty dang good. And this is probably, honestly, right for your bossing DPS. This is probably right there. And now it's for my traditional breach clear at the end of the video. This will show you kind of how easy this is, especially with no swaps of any kind. You just straight run through, start to finish, and it works out pretty dang well. Like if you like the video, don't if you don't. Either way, I appreciate you guys. Have a good one. See you, dudes.
To get close and take a swing, I got so much evasion now that they're probably going to miss.